The courtroom buzzed with soft murmurs as spectators took their seats. The judge's bench towered above, a stern symbol of justice, or for some, of fear. Marcus, a sharply dressed black man, stood tall at the defendant's table. His posture was strong, his gaze steady. His tailored suit and composed expression sharply contrasted the look of disdain etched across Judge Simmons's face. She tapped her gavel once, cutting off the lingering whispers. "Let's get this over with," she muttered, barely hiding her irritation. "I don't have all day for foolishness." Marcus arched a brow, but stayed silent. He'd seen that look before, that cold, dismissive glare, that superior tone. It wasn't unfamiliar. Judge Simmons leaned in, her voice bitter. "People like you always think you're above the rules, always looking for shortcuts." The venom in her tone drew gasps. The court stenographer hesitated before resuming her typing. Marcus remained composed, but the sting of her words did not go unnoticed. "Excuse me, Your Honor," he said, his voice even. "You heard me," she snapped. "You people always find ways to twist the system, expecting special treatment just because you show up in a fancy suit." A hush settled over the courtroom. Even the bailiff shifted in his stance. Marcus took a slow breath. He had encountered prejudice before, but never so brazenly in a court of law. Reaching into his pocket, he withdrew a small badge and held it up for all to see. "I had hoped for fairness today," he said, his voice firm, "but apparently I'll have to remind you who I truly am." Judge Simmons scoffed, leaning back with a mocking smirk. "And what exactly does that mean?" she asked, with dripping sarcasm, barely sparing the badge a glance. To her it looked like nothing more than a weak stunt. Marcus didn't flinch. Calmly he placed the badge on the table, letting it glint under the overhead lights. "I'm Special Agent Marcus Reed," he said clearly, "with the Federal Bureau of Investigation." His words sliced through the tension like a blade. The courtroom fell silent. The prosecutor, mid-page flip, froze. The bailiff stood straighter. Even the gallery leaned in. Judge Simmons chuckled dryly, waving him off. "Oh, please, do you really expect me to buy that? A fake badge and a slick attitude won't save you." Marcus remained unshaken. He reached into his other pocket and pulled out an official ID. Calmly he stepped forward and set it on her bench. "You're welcome to verify it," he said. Judge Simmons faltered slightly, her smirk flickering. She glanced at the ID, then back at Marcus. "Even if that's real," she said tightly, "you're still a defendant here today." Marcus tilted his head. "That's where you're mistaken, Your Honor," he said. "I'm not here to stand trial. I'm here on federal business. And after what you've said, that business now involves you." The crowd reacted with a ripple of shock. The whispers returned, louder this time. Judge Simmons shifted, then quickly composed herself with another eye roll. "This is nonsense," she snapped. "I'm the one who runs this courtroom. You have no authority here." Marcus met her gaze. "That's where you're wrong, Judge," he said calmly. "And you're about to find that out." Her eyes narrowed, but a flicker of uncertainty crept into her expression. She glanced at the ID again. The federal seal was clear and unmistakable. The tension wrapped around the room like a noose. The prosecutor fidgeted, stealing glances at the bench. The audience whispered in astonishment. "You expect me to take your word?" Simmons snapped, gripping the benches. "This is my courtroom. I decide what happens here." Marcus stayed composed. He turned slightly and addressed the bailiff. "I recommend you confirm my identity. Call the bureau. You'll find that I outrank any authority in this room." His words carried weight, and for the first time, the bailiff hesitated. Judge Simmons looked visibly rattled. The bailiff glanced at her, waiting for instruction. Simmons waved him off. "This is absurd," she muttered. "We're done here." She raised her gavel to move on, but Marcus stepped forward. "Actually, Judge," he said firmly, "you're the one who's done." The words slammed into or like a brick. Simmons froze, fingers clenched around her gavel. "Excuse me," she hissed, her face flushing. Marcus reached into his jacket and unfolded a document. "This is a federal warrant," he said, holding it up for all to see, "for your arrest." The courtroom erupted. Gasps stunned. Shouts dropped pens. The bailiff took a step forward, unsure. Simmons blinked in disbelief. "This has to be a joke," she stammered. "This can't be real." Marcus stood silently, letting his statement sink in. The bailiff, realizing the gravity, cautiously accepted the warrant from Marcus and scanned it. Judge Simmons watched his expression. Her smugness began to drain. The power she'd always wielded like a sword was slipping. Her courtroom was no longer under her control. Her hands clenched the gavel tighter. The bailiff finished reading, his face tense. The air hung heavy, every breath measured. "This is preposterous." Simmons sputtered. "You can't just walk in here and do this. I am the law in this room." Marcus stood firm, arms folded. "You've read the warrant," he said to the bailiff. "You know what must be done." The bailiff hesitated once more, then took a step forward. "Your Honor," he said cautiously, "I need you to stand." Simmons barked, a dry laugh. "You must be joking. Do you have any idea who I am?" Marcus didn't budge. "Not anymore." The air cracked with energy. "Gasp," echoed. Simmons's face drained of color. She scanned the room, hoping someone would come to her aid. The prosecutor looked away. The clerk typed, unmoved. Even the security officers in the back stood still. The bailiff stepped closer. "Judge Simmons, please," he said. "Don't make this harder." Her hands shook as they gripped the bench. "This can't be real," she whispered. But then, with a sudden shift, she straightened and sneered. "You think you've won?" she spat. "This is temporary. I'll be back on this bench in no time. And when I am—" "You won't," Marcus interrupted, his voice calm but absolute. "Your corruption ends today." The bailiff reached for his cuffs. Simmons inhaled sharply. For the first time in her career, she felt what her defendants must have felt, powerless. The metallic snap of the handcuffs rang through the court like a gunshot. Simmons flinched as they locked around her wrists. Rage twisted her face, but it couldn't hide her fear. The very authority she had used to intimidate others was now gone. The murmurs grew into murmurs of disbelief but also relief. "This is outrageous," she cried. "You have no right." Marcus stepped forward. "You abused your position for too long. The law doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the people." The prosecutor, still pale, stood. "Given what's just occurred," he said, "I move to dismiss this case immediately." The gavel, now in a substitute judge's hand, slammed down. "Case dismissed." As Marcus turned to leave, the room erupted in applause. He walked out with quiet dignity, knowing that justice, true justice, had finally prevailed in that courtroom.